In today's episode, an 18-year-old fresh out of high school gets a job as a silver miner in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness. It was there he was attacked by a mother bear and her two cubs and eaten alive by the three bears. Hit that like button and subscribe right now. This is the terrifying grizzly bear attack on David Montoya. Welcome to Final Affliction. When it comes to animals in the wild, it's well known that mothers will protect their young, no matter what. Whether it's a tiny frog to a huge lion, the females of these species will do everything they can to ensure that their young live and grow up to become proper adult animals. And, as the old adage goes, one of the scariest animals that you don't want to mess with is a mama bear and her cubs. David Montoya was an 18-year-old from Hollis in Oklahoma. As a young man, he had always been unsure as to what he wanted to do when he grew up. Whilst most of his friends in his school had an idea of what they wanted to do, David was slightly less sure about how he wanted to live his life. Despite this, he was a good student in school, getting good grades. However, he sometimes found it difficult to focus on his lessons. Instead, he wished that he was outside doing something practical. When it came time for his graduation, the young man had decided that he wanted to work with his hands, as he found it a lot more interesting than sitting in an office. Seeing that there was a job going for contractors at an Idaho-based company called Timberline Drilling, David decided to go and mine silver in Alaska, as he thought that it would be the perfect opportunity to get out of Oklahoma and go traveling, whilst also getting to earn a bit of money. The salaries of silver miners in the U.S. range from $30,880 to $70,360. But David was just excited to be finally out of school and making money. Being new to the job and probably one of the youngest on the job site, David knew that he would likely be earning the lower end of the average salary. However, for a young man just out of school, $30,000 a year was a good start. After securing the job, David packed his bags and flew out of Oklahoma, excited to start his job in Alaska. Once in Alaska, the young man was taken out to the drill site, which was so remote in its location that it was only accessible via helicopter. The drill site itself was located on the edge of the Hecla Greens Creek mine property, on an island in southeastern Alaska. For David, the whole experience was completely new and exhilarating. The wild landscape was something that he had never truly experienced before, especially not on the scale that Alaska boasts. The state has approximately 222 million acres of federal land, which is roughly about 60% of the state. Of that vast acreage, there are about 57.5 million acres of designated wilderness, along with some 16.5 million acres of proposed wilderness areas. Alaska's designated wilderness acreage makes up approximately 54% of the entire nation's wilderness. Considering just how much more wild the state was compared to Oklahoma, it was safe to say that David was feeling a little overwhelmed. However, the young man was determined to do well at his job. It was a very difficult and very physically demanding job, which left David feeling exhausted more often than not. But the young man enjoyed his work, and he felt that he was learning valuable life skills as he did it. Because Alaska is so wild, there are plenty of animals to be seen in the great outdoors, and one of these animals are bears. With more than 40,000 grizzly bears and 100,000 black bears roaming wild, it's not difficult at all to spot one of these amazing animals out and about. In fact, Admiralty Island is famous for its coastal grizzlies and has the densest population of bears per square mile in North America. An estimated 1,500 brown bears roam about on the island, according to the Alaska Department of Fish and Game, meaning that it is common to spot one without too much trouble tracking them down. Roughly 5 months after beginning his job as a silver miner, David had gotten into quite a good routine. He would wake up early, have his breakfast, and then head off to the drill site, where he would happily work, mining as much silver as he could. However, on this particular day, things didn't quite go according to plan. After working his morning shift, David was happy to finally go on break. Whilst he loved his job, it was still very exhausting, and taking a moment to relax and unwind in the fresh air was something that he always looked forward to. It was whilst the 18-year-old was wandering around the site, stretching his legs, that he stumbled across something he wished he hadn't. There, standing only a few feet in front of him, was a huge brown bear and her 2 cubs. Instantly, David froze in fear. When he at first began his job, he was made to go to a company meeting which discussed the mine's bear safety program. This included training that all workers, contractors, and visitors must complete before going to the site. Workers are taught ways to prevent bear encounters, including proper disposal of food. And, in remote locations, bear spray is among the tools employees generally bring with them in the case of bear encounters. Unfortunately for David, he had forgotten his bear spray. He also forgot the most important rule when dealing with a bear: not to make any sudden movements or noises. After noticing the bear, David quickly tried to backtrack. However, his panicked, fast movements scared the mama bear and her cubs, who thought that David was probably trying to threaten them. Not wanting her babies to get hurt, the mama grizzly rose up onto her back legs to try and make herself look more imposing before letting out a loud roar. Scared, David turned and tried to run. However, this set off the bear's hunting instinct. The huge bear charged after David, easily catching up to him as she could run as fast as 35 miles per hour. Once she had caught up to the young man, the mama grizzly began ferociously attacking him. She bit down where her teeth would reach and clawed relentlessly at his body. David was in utter agony, trying desperately to get away from the onslaught, but with a massive 600-pound bear on him, pinning him down, there was no way for him to escape. To make matters worse, the bear's cubs also ran over and began mauling David. They were learning from their mother, not understanding that attacking humans wasn't something that they should be doing. Sadly, despite David's efforts to get away, he was unable to escape the 3 bears. It wasn't long before one of the young man's co-workers went looking for David as he was due back to work from his break. But when they found him, they couldn't believe their eyes. The mother bear and her 2 cubs were gathered around David's lifeless body, feasting on it, completely ignoring the men approaching them while they consumed David. Because they were in quite a wild place, a lot of the security at the mine site had guns. It was with these guns that the mama bear and her babies were euthanized. State troopers were then called to the island so that they could help sort out the situation. In the end, David's body was taken to the state medical examiner's office for an autopsy, where it was determined that the death was caused by the bears themselves. At first, David's co-workers were unsure if he had died from some kind of accident and the bears had found him already dead. The medical examiners were able to confirm he died of blood loss resulting from a bite to the neck. His body was then sent back to his home in Oklahoma so that his friends and family could give him a proper funeral. Everyone was devastated at the loss of David, as he was a well-liked young man who made friends with everyone he met. To make matters worse, he was only a week away from his 19th birthday when the attack took place. His family were left in shock, and they constantly miss him. However, whilst it is sad what happened to David, it is also sad how the attack was handled, with the mama bear and her 2 cubs being shot in retaliation for the attack. It is likely that the mama was simply trying to protect her babies from what she perceived to be danger. Others point to the 3 bears eating David's body to suggest the bears had mauled him as part of a predatory attack, possibly the mother bear teaching her cubs how to hunt, with the humans being the prey. If this was the case, if the bears hadn't been shot after the attack, it's likely they would have continued hunting humans, bringing more innocent people like David Montoya to their terrifying, final affliction.